Hi there, boys and girls, and welcome back to Conquering Math, where it all adds up. Today we will be learning about adding and subtracting fractions. Let's dive on in. By the end of today's lesson, you will be able to add and subtract fractions and mixed numbers by using the least common denominator. The Common Core State Standard today is 6NS4. Let's start by discussing the steps that we should follow when adding or subtracting fractions. The first thing that we need to do is identify a common denominator for the two or more fractions. We can use common multiples to help us find this common denominator. Then we need to carry the common denominator over into the sum or difference. After that, we need to add or subtract the numerators, depending on the problem, and keep in mind that the denominator does not change, which is why we already carried it over. Finally, if necessary, we need to simplify. We can make this final step easier on ourselves if we use the least common denominator in step 1. Let's take a look at these steps in example number 1. We need to evaluate 1/6 plus 2/9. The least common multiple of 6 and 9 is 18. So the least common denominator of these fractions will be 18. So we have 1/6 plus 2/9, and in order to change sixths to 18ths, we need to multiply by 3. So we'll do that on the top and bottom of that fraction. And in order to change ninths to 18ths, we need to multiply by 2. So we'll do that on both the top and bottom of that fraction. So now we have 3/18ths plus 4/18ths, which equals 7/18ths. So 1/6 plus 2/9 equals 7/18ths. Now let's take a look at another example. Evaluate 9/10 minus 3/5. The least common multiple of 10 and 5 is 10, so the least common denominator of these fractions is also 10. So 9/10 minus 3/5, we only have to change the 3/5 by multiplying the numerator and denominator by 2. This gives us 9/10 minus 6/10. We carry over the denominator and we subtract the numerators. 9 minus 6 equals 3. And this is simplified, so we're done. 9/10 minus 3/5 equals 3/10. Now let's take a look at an example involving mixed numbers. We will need to evaluate 2 1/2 plus 1 1/3. In order to solve this type of problem, we will need to change the mixed numbers into improper fractions and then add those fractions together. Then we can simplify and change back to a mixed number as necessary. So we have 2 1/2 plus 1 1/3. 2 1/2 becomes 5 halves, and 1 1/3 becomes 4 thirds. So now we have 5 halves plus 4 thirds. The least common denominator of halves and thirds is sixths. So in order to change to sixths, we need to multiply 5 halves times 3 over 3, and we need to multiply 4 thirds times 2 over 2, which gives us 15 over 6 plus 8 over 6. Remember that when we are adding fractions, the denominator stays the same, and we add the numerators. So now we have 23 sixths. 23 sixths can be changed back into a mixed number, which is 3 5/6. So that is our answer. Now let's take a look at another example with mixed numbers, this time involving subtraction. We will need to evaluate 7 3/8 minus 3 1/6. We'll use the same method as before. Change the mixed numbers to improper fractions. This time we will subtract the fractions, and then we can simplify and change back to mixed numbers. So 7 3/8 becomes 59/8, and 3 1/6 becomes 19/6. The least common denominator of eighths and sixths is 24ths, so 59 over 8 becomes 177 over 24, and 19 over 6 becomes 76 over 24. 177 minus 76 is 101, and we carry the denominator across, so we have 101 24ths. This simplifies to 4 5 24ths. Today you learned how to add and subtract fractions in mixed numbers by using the least common denominator. The Common Core State Standard today was 6NS4. Now that you are familiar with these techniques, complete the independent practice problems in your guided notes packet. Then watch the independent practice solutions video to check your work. Thanks for watching this episode of Conquering Math, where it all adds up. I'll see you next time.